I'm your host, Sarah Baus, and welcome to Attainable Podcast. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Attainable Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Baus. I'm extremely happy to have you here. If you're not new here, I'm also very happy to have you here. We are doing an episode that is kind of branching off of last week's episode. So if you listened to last week's episode, I talked all about my new job that I got, and kind of all the things that's surrounding that, as well as closing my business. And we are extending that because I was supposed to tell you guys everything about that, including liquidating my business and liquidating thousands of dollars from my business accounts and what we did with that. However, I have been pretty sick. I'm still actually getting over it, but show must go on. And so I literally couldn't make it through that recording to actually tell you everything. So now we're going to be doing this episode where I will be going in depth about liquidating the business, what I did with that money, and the new money mindset and kind of money systems that I'm going to be putting in place with a consistent salary. So as a freelancer, my salary has ebbed and flowed over the years. It makes budgeting definitely more difficult. And at the beginning of the year, I had several clients have budget cuts, and I lost a significant amount of income that also sort of had me rearranging the budget. And with this new job, new salary, I'm now able to kind of bring in a new money system that helps reach towards my goals, which we're going to talk about all of that, money goals, all that type of stuff. But let's start with liquidating the business. So when I first signed the job, I was looking at, okay, what does this mean for the business? And as far as, we'll just speak technically, because I think this stuff really interests me. So I hold an LLC, and when I say the business, that's what I mean. I mean the LLC and having something where I then take money in from that goes through that LLC, through those business accounts. And for tax purposes, that means that is 1099 or contractor income, which means that's taxed differently. So the things that I have done under that LLC have kind of differed over the years. It fluctuates. That's kind of the good thing about having an LLC. So this LLC is in my name. So any of my 1099 or now, which would be side income, goes through that LLC, and that is how I'm able to tax that. So, but I realized my social media services and that piece of that LLC, I would be closing down because I wouldn't be taking on social media clients while I was also doing my full-time job. I'll still be doing the podcast and influencing and brand partnerships and that type of stuff. So that it will be an income, but I won't be doing the social media services. And the social media services was what was the majority of my income, and it's what took the majority of my expenses. So when we established my business accounts and the literal bank accounts of my business, we had several bank accounts. There's an account for operations expenses. So that was anything from paying my assistant to that was any scheduling programs. That's how we paid for the website. Anything that the business needed to operate, that came out of operation expenses. Then we had another account called income. That was literally just if we got paid. I say we. I had a part-time virtual assistant, but we just means me and the business. I kind of refer to it in plural form. But any money that we got went into income. That's just kind of where it got dumped before it got allocated into these other three accounts. So we have operational expenses, we've got my income account, then we have a taxes account, which was where we took out money, put it away for taxes. And then we also had a profit account. So that is anything left over after operational expenses and taxes was put into the profit. And that's just kind of extra money, profit for the business, anything that would end up being taxable. So for that kind of stuff, obviously I had then money stashed in my profit account, my tax account, and then obviously my operations expenses account and that kind of stuff. The taxes account I did not touch because we need that. That is still income that I made. Therefore, that's income that I will be taxed on next year. So that stayed. But I had an account full of profit. I had an account full of operational expenses. And I even had an account with some money in my income account that hadn't been allocated yet. And so I was looking at this and I talked to my accountant and I was like, what do I do with this? I no longer need this money to operate. I no longer have a reason to hold profit for, and she was like, you can do whatever you want. And so I had this period of time between shutting down my last client and then starting this job where I then said, okay, like I'm going to liquidate the business. And that meant taking out around $7,000 from the business. And I was just kind of holding it, like kind of theoretically. I was like, what am I going to do with this? And my first, like, my first reaction to this is the same reaction I have when I get like my income, like my taxes back, or like the, what's it called, whenever you do your taxes and if you pay too much you get money back. Same reaction is I always want to put it in investments and savings, like straight out the gate, like just stuff it all in and I do not touch it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But that kind of that was really questions I talked to Joseph. He was like, no, you're going to take some of this and you're going to enjoy it for yourself. And I was also talking to my therapist about it. And she was like, yeah, like it's great to save and it's great to do these things, but it's also really good to value like yourself and be able to treat yourself. So what I did with this is I took out I took about half, and that went straight to the honeymoon fund, because we are having to pay off the honeymoon, and that was able to pay off like a very large portion of it. And the other half, I said, okay, this is going to be allotted to myself. I can put some in my savings, and then I'm also going to use it on the expenses of like kind of these 2 weeks or 3 or so weeks of sort of like vacation between the jobs. And so if you've watched my TikTok or you saw any of that, I kind of went on like a little like adventure few weeks where I did like tours of Charleston. I got another piercing, or rather I redid a piercing. I did like a bunch of things that I just wanted to do, and almost like a little bucket list that there's no reason why I hadn't been doing them other than the fact that like I was working, and it was kind of a reminder of, hey, you can still have fun. Not that I wasn't having fun, but you can still like be a tourist and you can do really cool things. And like it was a bucket list to remind myself that I didn't need an allotted amount of time to do bucket list items. Like I should be taking time in life to go try new things, like go walk the bridge. I've never done that before, so I really want to do that. Or making sure that I would go to a beach a lot, and making sure that I'm just not getting so caught up in like life that I'm not actually living, if that makes sense. And so I also kind of took those 2 weeks to feel the freedom of having like a good chunk of income, because losing those clients at the beginning of the year really took a toll on my personal budget. And it was really having a couple weeks to melt away the restrictive money mindset that I had kind of obtained because of the fact that I just had a very limited amount of income. And it wasn't a restrictive mindset in the fact that I was it's very different from being smart with budgeting. I was smart with my budget. I was smart with my money. But and if you've ever been in a situation where you feel restrictive, I think that you know what I'm talking about when I say like there is this sort of other piece to that, and kind of other side of that coin, where it makes you feel very limited, and you then kind of stop seeing money as something you control, and it's something that controls you. And so even being able to go to lunch with a friend and having a little bit more freedom on not worrying what that bill would look like, or not having to calculate it in my mind and those type of things. It was like taking like coats off and reminding myself of who had that control, and what it was like to not feel as limited by money. And I'm saying this like, and yes, of course, it always feels good when your salary increases, but it was sort of a reminder of how bitter I had gotten, and how negative of a money mindset I had gotten because of feeling restricted, more restricted than I actually was. I realized that I had gotten to this place where I felt really guilty for treating myself. When I was talking to my therapist and I'd established, I was like, okay, it's going to be okay to take some of this money and like treat myself and have a good time. She was like, what's the first thing that you want to buy? And like the first thing that I said was a new trash can for our master bedroom. Our trash can was old, it was too small. I hated that trash can, but like to me, like that's the level of like that's what a treat kind of felt like for me. And that is a treat, but I was like, oh man, like I can do better than that. Like, that's not really a reward for something that's not, new clothes or new makeup or something like a fun purchase for me. That is something that we kind of need. And I now, not that I couldn't buy the trash can before, I 100% could, but I could then buy it without feeling like I had to sacrifice something else later or feeling like I had to think harder on that purchase. And in my head, I was like, okay, we have a trash can, therefore getting a new one is a luxury. And yes, like that is a privilege to be able to get a new trash can, but I was able to get a new trash can before. And so I was just like, oh wow, Sarah, like we've gotten to like not a really healthy place with how money feels. And so those couple weeks I just kind of spent like relearning what it was like to be in control of my money, to understand how to use my money to live and not let it kind of dictate my mindset and how I feel and how limited I feel. So now with this new like consistent salary, I'm able to put in a new money system. And so again, my money really fluctuated. And with the losing the clients to budget cuts in the beginning of the year, that also made it so in the first time, literally since I think I was 14, I could not afford to deposit into my savings. I needed that money in order for like bills and groceries and stuff like that. And so that was also another thing that was interesting for me to learn this year, of what it was like to not be able to save. And that was a really hard thing for me mentally to accept, like that this was a temporary time, where of course like I needed to prioritize, the groceries and that kind of stuff, over being able to put money away into my 401k or Roth IRA or whatever it may be. So that was really difficult. And now, new salary, I'm able to kind of bring in that money system again and re-allot my money. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how I'm going to be doing that and the new money system that will be going in place in order to obtain our goals. So when I'm looking at our budget and everything like that, our long-term goals is for us to have like an early retirement. It'd be great to retire at 50, even better to retire at like 45, 40. We'll see. But so our major long-term goal is to retire early, which means that is us contributing to our 401k and our Roth IRA. And then our short-term goals are the wedding. We definitely have to pay that stuff off, pay off the honeymoon. And then I am also in need of a new car. And I really, really, really want to pay cash for my car. So far she's been doing good. So I think she'll be able to last me. So I won't have to take on a car payment. I just hate car payments. And unless this thing literally like putters out on me, I'm just going to save up a little bit more so I can pay cash. So we've got those two different goals. So when I'm looking at my budget, if I get a paycheck in, I take that paycheck, and first thing that is taken out from that paycheck is anything that goes into savings. So this is money that's going to be allotted for my Roth IRA, money that's going to be allotted towards the wedding fund, the honeymoon fund, and then the car fund and the travel fund. I'm a big fan of compartmentalizing because that really helps me organize where money is going. So I have a account that we do honeymoon and wedding savings in. I have an account for travel, which I've talked about how I save for travel before if you want to go with the other podcast episodes. But essentially, I have an account specifically for travel because travel is something that we really, really value. So every month I put a little bit of money in there so that if we want to go on a trip, that is not coming from our monthly spending. Like I can just take that from the travel account. And so it's money that's already allotted towards that, if that makes sense. So we've got that. And then I also will be making an account specifically for the car and saving up for a new car. So first thing that comes out is the savings. And that's because that's based on like the terminology of like pay yourself first. That's the first thing that's important to me. Second that I look at is bills. And so that is taking out money for the mortgage, that's taking out money for car insurance, anything like that you have to pay. That's the next thing that kind of gets like scraped off the top. So, like say we're like working with like $2,000, $4,000, whatever you take. Let's say we're working with like $4,000, just because easy math in my head. So you take 1,000 off the top for savings, you take 1,000 off the top for bills, and then the latter, the remaining amount, that $2,000, that's for your regular spending. If you want, you can go more granular than that, and you can even do like budget it out for how much goes towards groceries, how much goes towards shopping, how much goes towards eating out, that type of stuff. I don't love doing that. That makes me feel that makes me feel more restricted. And with a budget is not supposed to feel restrictive. It's supposed to tell you what you can do and not what you can't. So some people really work really well with almost like an envelope system where they know they have $200 for eating out. And so they feel great. Like they can run with that $200 and for their dining, and that's great. For me, I don't like being told like what I will spend the money on. I like saying, okay, hey, you've already taken care of your savings. You've already taken care of all your bills. Now you have all this money and this is just for you to spend. And I include groceries in that and that's just kind of how my mind works, but that's totally up to you. So that's how this new like money system will go. A lot of you have probably listened to my other episodes talking about my budget. I've shared my budget template with you guys, and how I do all that. And so a lot of this isn't new, but this is sort of new in kind of my world because I'm getting to bring back all those systems back after having a time when I couldn't save and I had to be a lot more restrictive, or I guess a lot more strict with how I spent my money due to income fluctuations of being a freelancer and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty excited to have like a consistent salary again. I loved my job as a freelancer, and I like that I get to still do that. That's one thing that was really important to me, is keeping my LLC and keeping a form of income outside of this job, this new job that I can then control, because I still like to have control over my incomes. So I can still have that kind of piece of side income that will be, coming in, and I can allot that money however I so choose. But it is really nice to have sort of like a cushion or a backbone for my budget and my monetary systems to lean on. So I'm pretty excited about that. I hope that this was helpful and interesting. I love hearing about other people's and like money systems and how they manage their money, and what systems that they use, because I find it very interesting, and it usually can inform new ways that I can do my own monetary systems and budgeting better. If you have questions, feel free to shoot me a DM or whatever. I know that this is another short episode. Again, I've had to like pause and cough, and so I am on antibiotics now, and so hopefully we will be back on track next week with a good old like longer episode. However, if you do like these short episodes, let me know. I'm very interested in you guys' feedback. We've got a lot of episodes planned that I'm very excited for, but it's always nice to hear from you guys and hear what you guys like or don't like, or what topics am I not speaking on that you want to hear more about. Shoot me a DM. I'm always open, and I love hearing from you guys. And yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.